Hey guys, so after my last video where I posted my Rimworld colony after 10 years of growth and more than 50 colonists, I was asked by a couple people to make a video on how I manage, how colonists do work, how I manage sickness in the colony, and how I manage mental breaks. So I'm going to kind of go through quickly things that I do and think are important or crucial or very helpful that kind of make my life easier when I'm playing and things that I prefer to do. This is by no means the way to do it. I'm sure there are many other ways to do it. I don't think there is a perfect way to play the game. This is just my personal take on how I think this stuff should work. Oh, and on top of this, I don't play entirely vanilla. I have a handful of mods. I don't mod to an insane amount. I basically add things that are kind of quality of life or things I think should be in the game to begin with, but nothing that really is too crazy or really breaks the game or makes it too different from what vanilla really is. To start with work management and how you manage this many pawns, like you can see, it's at this point it's next to impossible to try to do anything micromanaged with, let's take a peek, 60 pawns in the colony. So managing this many people, really, it's actually very easy. If you don't know how the game works, or you don't know the very basics, simply put, any kind of production thing, whether it's cooking food or making weapons, you can set up bills to say, okay, make pants until we have 2 pairs of pants. If we have 2 pairs of pants and we have extra, we don't need to make any more pants. And then if somebody comes and needs a pair of pants, there they go, put the pants on. We now only have 1 pair. Like how there's only 8 out of 15 dusters right now, people will come and start working on those. And then with that, getting into the work tab, how you manage all these colonists work, this here is how it starts. You can just decide what colonists will do and what colonists won't do. If you click manual priorities, you can actually rank them from top priority to low priority, 1 to 4. For example, here if we take Roni here, blacksmith, top priority is firefighting, patienting, bed rest, haul plus, which is actually a mod. It's kind of like a haul urgently, more like I want this hauled right now, as opposed to just the normal like, hey, carry this over to the stockpile when you can. Basic things, which is like flipping light switches, handle animals, hunt, grow, plant cut, craft, and clean. Those are all the top priority. What it'll do next, once we get to, okay, there's nothing else to clean, it'll cycle back to smithing, tailoring, and crafting. Smithing, tailoring, and hauling. Those will be the next thing. Once that's all done, it'll go to art. If there's no art to do, then it will go to wardening and entertaining. This screen works from left to right. So if everything was the same at the same level, it would go from left to right. When you set priorities, it goes from left to right, but following the priorities. The next thing I had was how do I handle sickness on the colony? To start, this isn't really something you can completely handle. Depending on what your tile is, what kind of zone you're in, will control how often you get sick. Here I'm in a boreal forest. It has an average disease frequency of 1 a year, which isn't very high. If you settled in something like a tropical rainforest, you have an average disease frequency of 1.7 a year, which on the surface doesn't seem like a huge difference, but it can get overwhelming. It kind of works that the hotter, wetter environments have more diseases a year than the colder, drier ones. The only other thing that you can kind of do to avoid diseases is researching and then making penoxycycline is how I think it's said. Penoxycycline. I'm just going to call it Penox. This will block the worst diseases, malaria, sleeping sickness, and the plague. And colonists have to take it every 5 days to have that prevention. This is actually kind of a pain in the ass to get in vanilla mode because you need neutroamine to produce it, and the only way to get neutroamine in vanilla is to buy it from other colonies or traders. So I actually use a mod called Growable Neutroamine that lets you grow it. It has a harvest time similar to that of Heal Root, I think it actually might be a bit longer, but it gives you a way to actually harvest this resource in on your own way without just having to go buy it from other people. The last thing is sickly pawns. Pawns can have a trait on them called sickly. If I remember correctly, Mason is a sickly pawn. This just means they will get illnesses a lot more often, and they'll get illnesses that nobody else in that colony is getting. So you'll see them getting sick all the time. If you can avoid adding sickly pawns to your colony, the same way you avoid adding pyromaniacs that'll try to burn down your colony if they have a mental break, it can be really helpful. I think in my 60 people, I only have 2. Another thing that's important is actually keeping your kitchen clean. Kitchen cleanliness and cook skills will decide whether or not colonists will get food poisoning, which can be another real pain in the ass and annoying thing to deal with. So having a clean kitchen, using sterile tiles, can be very helpful in just preventing those sicknesses from happening and just slowing everybody down. As for like the medical system, that's really all there is sickness wise. Obviously you need to be growing herbal medicine as soon as you can, buying medicine or producing it on your own when you can for injuries and such like that, but actually just like avoiding straight up illnesses. That's all you can do. The last question I was asked is, how do I avoid mental breaks? And the primary way is keep an eye on, firstly, your colony's wealth, because each colonist will get this expectations mood buff, and once you get to a certain level, it starts as they have no expectations. They've crash landed on an alien planet. They have no expectations. So they get like a plus 30 or a plus 25. As you gain more wealth, that buff goes away because they have better and better expectations. They have better and better living conditions. So you have to rely on other things. The first thing, and it's kind of the meme, is tables. Colonists, when they go to eat, their little computer brain will only look so far before they'll just decide to eat on the floor, which gives them a -3 mood debuff, which isn't the end of the world, but it can also be annoying if it all stacks up. So having tables spread out around your entire colony to where colonists always have something nearby to go eat can be super helpful. I used to put tables in every bedroom, but then you can get issues with colonists going into other colonists' bedrooms while they're sleeping and giving them the disturbed sleep debuff, which is also annoying. There's also a really helpful mod that I use called Tiny Tables. It gives you a little, what they call a tea table, which is a 1x1 table, the smallest possible. That if you want to put a table in a prison cell or in like a tight corner or something, it makes it very helpful. The next important thing that I think to controlling colonists' mood is the schedule. Again, as their expectations increase, they don't get those buffs anymore. So giving them more and more recreation time. When I first land, I start with 2 in the morning and 2 at night. And then I'll add progressively 1 in the morning as I notice colonists aren't getting enough recreation, and that's giving them more and more mental breaks. The next thing is having impressive dining rooms and rec rooms and bedrooms. Those are like the 3 most important. That'll give colonists buffs. If we look here, he has a decent bedroom, somewhat impressive rec room, and extremely impressive dining room. That's giving him a extra plus 10 on top of, having full recreation. An easy way to do that is just make your normal rec room and slap some art down in it. Adding art to a rec room can really increase its rating and impressiveness. Like right here, these 2, grain sculptures, I think it takes 800 wood. Those 2 alone make it a very beautiful room, which really increase the impressiveness. The last thing I'll use to control moods is beer. Beer can be really helpful. Drinking 1 beer gives them a plus 10. And it also doesn't give them very, let's see if any of them have drank any beer. Yeah, alcohol warmth. It doesn't give them really significant debuffs. Doesn't affect their consciousness. It only affects their manipulation slightly. Unlike, smoke leaf really affects their consciousness and manipulation. It really slows them down. The other drugs, yayo, flake. Flake is super addictive. Never use it. Psychic tea is alright, but all those like psychic based drugs are also just more addictive. Beer is something that I never have any issues with ever, especially when it comes to dealing with any kind of addiction or anything like that. I will also, after a certain point, just be growing hops 24/7. in, its own special room. I'll have hop growing, beer constantly being brewed, and always ready to be had. Because when someone's on the verge of having a breakdown, just making them go and drink a beer will raise them up out of that breakdown. And I mean, that's really everything that I was asked about, for colony management, sickness, mental breaks. I'll be putting up my mod list. I'm probably going to put it up right now. So you can see what I use, what I don't use. Again, it's very close to being vanilla. It's a lot of just quality of life stuff or stuff that I think should be in the game anyways. I don't try to make the game very unbalanced. If people like this, or if people don't like it and they want to argue with me, that's fine. If people do like this and want to see other videos on my take of how I run a Rimworld colony, I would totally do those. So, let me know. If people want to argue with me, either in the comments or on Reddit or in the subreddit or whatever, that's also fine. I'm sure, everybody has very different play styles. Like I didn't mention at all how I handle butchering people and taking their skin, because I don't do it. I don't. I burn all the bodies from any raid. They go in here, close the door, throw a Molotov cocktail in, close the door, let them all burn away. I do not deal with any extra mood debuffs. I try to cut out as many of those as possible. But, that's really all I've got. If anybody has any comments, please let me know. If anybody disagrees or thinks I'm missing something or thinks I'm an idiot, let me know. I always appreciate getting those kind of things.